This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. Although I am celebrating a beautiful winter picture of Toronto behind me because my heart is in Toronto, not New Brunswick. So that is, as far as I'm concerned, what my real home is. But you know what? We are in 2024. And what a great way to open because I have my first guest of the year here on January the 4th. And he's a guest I had back on way back. And if I remember correctly, I believe it was January 9th, 2017. Yes, I'm talking about one of the villains of Superman 2. Well, he was in Superman 1 as well, but Superman 2 in particular, directed by Richard Donner, if you watch the Donner cut, which I would recommend you do. Folks, I give you the silent villain, Mr. Jack O'Halloran. How do you do, Jack?
Hey, I'm doing the best I can, whatever they let me get away with.
Yeah? Well, it's nice to see you still active, you know. Um, it says in the Bible that we have 70 years, 80 if we're strong. Not that I want to give your age away, but you're one of the strong ones.
If I just hit 80. In fact, this year I'll be 81. I can't believe it. It's
Yeah, and
amazing.
I believe um oh, why is his name escaping me? General Zod,
Aaron Stamp.
Terrence Stamp, that's right. He's up there as well. So
Yeah. So, unfortunately, health-wise, he's not as healthy. But he's up in his 80s. Yeah.
oh,
Sarah's good. Sarah. I talk to Sarah all the time. Terrence is suffering from dementia,
is Sarah really
unfortunately. Huh?
Sarah suffering from
No,
dementia?
Terrence
Terrence.
Stamp is.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so was I.
I always liked him. I saw him and last night in Soho. And it was I thought that was a year or two ago. I when I was in Toronto doing a convention, and it was just really cool to see him in that. I don't know if you've seen that film. It was the last film Diana
Yeah,
Rigg was
no,
in.
he works every once in a while. I mean, the last big film he did was Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is a
Hmm.
hysterical movie. I don't know if you ever seen it, but if you didn't,
Yeah,
you get an opportunity to watch it. It's a very, very funny movie.
yeah. Well, it was great seeing him in last night in Soho, and I'm sorry to hear these get dementia. I've never had Sarah Douglas on here. I'd love to get her, but I've never had that happen yet. But
Sarah's a
loved her.
sweetheart.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so it's been since 2017 since you've been on here. So how was life? How was your Christmas? How was your New Year's?
Christmas was good. We spent it up in Boston with family and stuff, and I had a couple of business meetings up there, which was good. And the New Year's was quiet. New Year's we go out and have a little dinner with some friends and come home because all the fools are out there running around. Save yourself the aggravation. But it's good. It's starting to get warmed up down here in Tampa, in St. Petersburg.
Hmm.
It's we had a cold spell. It was down around 60 degrees and 50 in the morning and stuff like that, which is kind of cold for here. But it's getting better.
Actually, that's kind of warm for here.
I know.
Yeah, here in New Brunswick, it's a little different story. But nonetheless, do you get to do the conventions much?
Yeah, they've since the pandemic, they've come back, and I think we're doing three or four in 24, February and March. And, we've got a couple that we're doing. So, yeah, conventions are coming back.
So who joins you for those?
Sarah's going to be at one, and Mark McClure comes once in a while, and um, what's his name that played the baby Superman?
Aaron
Aaron Sport.
Smolinski. Yes, I just had him on back in I believe it was November,
Yeah,
October or November in there somewhere. But
he's
I
a good
had
guy. He's really a good fellow.
yeah, I've neglected to ask him if he parks cars for a living by just lifting them up.
You should have asked him, or if he just lifts up trucks instead of cars.
There you go. It was great to talk to him, you know. A friend of mine from right here in town, who I've known for a good 15, 16 years, um, who I had on the show because she was doing a variety of things. And she asked me if I had him on and that she was connected. I'm like, how are you connected with Aaron Smith? And I was like, okay. So we did the interview and it was a lot of fun. You
Yeah,
know, he's got a great
he's
sense
a
of
really
humor.
good guy. He is. It's
Yeah,
amazing how much play he's gotten out of playing baby, Superman. He's been to all the conventions and stuff, and it's trippy.
yeah. And Sarah Douglas, of course, always seems to play characters that misbehave, whether it be Superman or Conan the Destroyer.
Yeah,
She
she's done a lot of films. Well, she's a fine actress and just a very very nice person.
yeah.
Love to see if we can't connect you guys.
I would love to have her on here. I've always liked her, and she was great in the Superman movies, and of course I remember in Conan the Destroyer as well. You know, so and but nonetheless, I'm hoping that eventually I'll get to meet you guys at a convention. I'm very good friends with actress Lisa Langlois, Canadian actress, and she invited me to my first con in 2017, and it was my first time on a plane, my first time really out in New Brunswick, outside, well, other than Prince Edward Island. Um, and I loved it. I assisted her at three horror film conventions, and she helped me get my passport so that she wants to do Chiller next this year, I should say. So I'm like, okay, I'm on board for that, you know.
And
So
Cho's a good show. I
yeah,
might be there myself.
there you go, there you go. I fell in love with the convention scene, and she's become a very good dear friend of mine. So she and I always credit her as introducing me to improving myself because now I got like um business cards and all this stuff, you know. So
Some of the
my own
conventions are quite amusing when you see the dress up, how far people go to dress up as different characters and stuff. It's
yeah.
quite amusing.
Well, I would love to get moved to Toronto. That is one of my New Year's resolutions is to get moved to Toronto. I had a job lined up back in June, and I could probably still get it if I get down there. The problem is finding affordability down there. And I was like, oh my goodness, not everybody can afford these rent prices. What is wrong?
Toronto's really grown up. My God, gotten quite large.
Yeah. So I don't know. I did get to listen to our last interview in preparation for this, but I just wondering, you recall what the most unique thing you've ever been asked to sign?
That's interesting. Wow. God, I've been asked to sign a lot of stuff. That's an interesting question. That is an interesting. I signed a pair of my boots one time uh, from the costume. And
Hmm.
I've signed costumes, but the pair of boots was kind of a trippy deal because they were the original boots. I don't know how the guy ever got them. Um, I, that's interesting. I've signed so many things. The ball things when we did one scene where the balls are going back and forth. Um, huh, I didn't even think about that one. That's kind of interesting.
There you go. There you go. Now, to me, when it comes to the Superman franchise, Superman 1 and 2 to me are the best of the franchise, you know.
No doubt
And
about it. They got
yeah,
darker and darker after that. It's really sad. They should
actually,
have
I
never
think
gotten rid of Donner. Donner would have done like six of them, and he and Mankiewicz really had Superman in hand. In fact, Dick kept doing the comic books and everything even after they fired him, which was ridiculous, you know. But it is what it is. I mean, that's why the Donner cut, to me, the Donner cut's much better than the Lester cut.
Richard Donner, we just lost him not too long ago. He had quite the career, The Omen, Superman,
Amazing
Superman
director.
2,
Oh, it was
Lethal
amazing. Lethal
Weapon,
Weapon.
Conspiracy Theory, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like he has done so many things, and he's had quite the career, Richard Donner has. I've listened to him on some commentary tracks too. Great sense of humor. I've heard all great things about him. Even Aaron expressed gratitude towards him, but we just lost him in the last couple of years. What was your fondest memory of Richard Donner?
He was just so, he's a great director. He got a performance out of Christopher Reeves that no one else would have ever gotten. And no one will ever do Clark Kent Superman like Christopher did.
I
And when
agree.
Christopher came on the set for the first time, when he auditioned, he was only like 170 pounds. So they built uh, David. We built, helped build him up and body build him up, not pump him up, but put definition on him, and it worked out very well. But
Hmm.
Richard was just an amazing director. You know, some guys uh, they have such a presence on a set that people respect what they're doing because he did his homework. You know, he didn't wait till you got out there and then start moving you around and try this and try that. He knew exactly what he wanted before he ever stepped on a set. And he was a very calm guy. You very rarely ever saw him get a flare up or anything. And he just, when you do something with somebody that really knows what they're doing, you read that right away.
Hmm.
You know, he had just had an amazing creative flair. I mean, Hackman loved him, Brando loved him, everybody that worked with him just enjoyed working with him. He was a pleasure to work with. Let me say that.
Yeah, Hackman has been well retired since 2004,
Yeah.
and I think he's in his 90s now, um, two-time Academy Award winner, and he was a great Lex Luthor, I'll say that.
Oh, he was brilliant. Gene's a
Hmm.
good friend. He's just a very talented guy. And, when you have people, when we did Superman, you had such an assembly of people. I mean, Terrence Stamp was probably in his younger years, he was the hottest actor in England.
Hmm.
And then his brother was manager of the Who, the group. And
Hmm.
Terrence got caught up in that sex, drugs, and rock and roll business. And then he went to India and he cleaned himself up. And Superman was the first movie he did after that. And he was Terrence just a really fine, fine actor and a fine person. I like Terrence a lot. But all the people that you see that were judges, like saying guilty, guilty, you had some of the finest English actors, Trevor Howard, Harry Anderson. I mean, there were some great actors that did cameos in that film. It was just, and of course, Marlon Brando. I mean, Brando's another story altogether.
Yeah.
We had a great. It was a great crew, and a great cast, and a great script, and a great director. And the music was unbelievable.
Mhm. I always remember that scene. It's been a little while since I've seen Superman 2, but the scene I always remember is him taking a hold of Terrence Stamp as General Zod by an arm and a leg, spinning him around in circles, and letting him cut loose up into the Coca-Cola sign.
Yeah,
I love that.
it was.
That was great. I enjoyed that, and of course, General Zod, of course, was also portrayed by Michael Shannon in a more recent Superman. Did you see that? Michael Shannon's a really good actor, but what did you
He's a
think
good
of that?
actor, but I mean, that was, I didn't care for the picture at all.
No.
It's just, and I think that we have a treatment that we're trying to take into them now, which would bring Christopher and the three villains back in hologram. And the three villains have, there's a technology comes from another planet that changes their mindset and takes them from evil to good. And they become cohorts of Superman. So there's like four of them now that are working against the invasion of Earth from all the planets.
Oh,
And it
nice.
reverses violence I mean, the problem with the superhero movies today is that the superheroes are killing more people than the villains are, you know.
Yeah, that was a
So
big complaint when Man of Steel came out.
and
It's
we never
like,
did that, you know.
yeah, like I remember the scene where the bus was thrown at Christopher Reeves as Superman. He caught the bus, or stopped it from
Yeah,
sliding, and there was a real care given to onlookers and civilians. Man of Steel, you had a lot of damage going on in that
yeah,
city, and I'm sitting here thinking, wouldn't there be people in these buildings? And it's like the filmmakers were so committed to showing action and special effects and violence that they never stopped to think that you got civilians and they got to look outside the box when it comes to that when you get I'm even talking about even a random action movie. When you get a car speeding down, it's hitting cars, or a transport hits a car. It's like there's somebody in that car.
yeah,
What about that? I always liked it in the movie Speed when you got the person with the baby carriage come out, and Sandra Bullock's not able to stop the bus and the baby carriage gets hit, and you are in the audience like, oh my goodness. And then you discover there were soup cans and whatnot were in the baby, because it was a homeless person pushing
mm,
the baby carriage. And it's like you just kind of sigh of relief that it was soup cans and not a kid. I like it when a filmmaker can put you on that kind of edge of your seat. Man of Steel, there's a lot of like, technically speaking, the movie was technically well made and whatnot, but when it come to the action, it's like the amount of damage done in and around, there was like no care given to the fact that, you know what, you got to look past your central characters and look at plausibility, and look at the fact, you got people in these gas stations blowing up. Like, come on,
yeah. People are
pull
going to
your,
get injured, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. See, we didn't have that. In fact, even when he caught the thief in Superman, and he brought him down and handed him to the police to lock him
Hmm.
up. Caught the guy with the burglar with the bag of jewels and all that stuff. And you just the whole movie was it was anti-violent,
Hmm.
you know, and I think that that has to be brought back to the audience. You have kids running around shooting people today. It's just
Yes.
it's gotten really out of hand, boy. It's just so we've got this treatment that we're trying to, and if we put Christopher back on the screen, people are going to go crazy because he was the best of the Superman. And if we do it and keep it back at the same genre like we did one and two, and do Law and Order instead of just wiping people out, I think it'll work a lot better.
It's interesting. You said that Superman 1 and 2 you said that they got darker after that. I kind of disagree with you because I think they got lighter after that in terms of part 3 and 4, because part 3 and 4 I couldn't take seriously. Whereas 1 and 2, I wouldn't say they're dark in terms of cynicism. Um, Maybe it's because of the tone you were able to engage yourself
Well, when I
and
say
care.
darker, I'm talking about the attitude of like you was
Yeah.
talking about people getting killed, and they didn't care about that. We
Yeah.
didn't have that in one and two.
Yeah, they really after they screwed up with Donner, they might as well just have stopped after that. Superman 3, I'm a big Richard Pryor fan, but they brought him into the third one, for comic relief. And I'll be frank, he didn't ruin it for me, but it certainly was not part one and two. But Quest for Peace, they really did wrong with that one, you know. And then there was Superman Returns with Brandon Routh, and then they brought in Henry Cavill for the ones that they've been doing since Man of Steel. And I regret the fact that there's definitely an audience for Superman, but it's not as strong as or on the line as what it is for the Batman franchise, because Batman can still draw. Superman, they need to get focused on what worked, and they need to go back to those first two movies to
Well,
really
that's
see
what I
what
said. We
worked.
bring Christopher, we bring Christopher back, and then we bring the villains back. And
Hmm.
what the thing is that there's another planet across the galaxy that's a sister planet to Krypton, but they have better technology, and they can reverse violence in people's minds and stuff, and they can reverse things. Like they come down into the prison, and they reverse the mindset of Zod, Ursa, and Non. And Non, before he was lobotomized, was a master scientist, and they lobotomized him because he was hanging around with Zod. So they're going to reverse my lobotomy, and the first words I say are Zod, kneel before Non. I got a smile on you, see? But
So are you guys going to use because I know there's been a lot of criticism over AI. To me, AI is fine when there's permission granted. Like Peter Cushing, for example, there was permission granted to use his footage for the last Star Wars movie, or no, it was Rogue One, you know, and there was permission granted to the residents of Peter Cushing. I hear a lot about, like, I know Zelda Williams, who's the daughter of Robin Williams, came out against the fact that Robin Williams' AI image was used in something and there was no permission given. And there was a little bit of controversy of that. I'm for the AI thing if permission is granted,
oh
you
yeah, when
know?
we went to Chris's family and everything. I mean, it's
And I think that's
and
great.
hologram is a better technology. It's a great technology where it works extremely well.
And
It
I think
really
that's
works
great.
well.
I think that's great because it also allows the estate to become part of it in a way, and I think
Yeah.
that's wonderful. And you know what? If they granted permission for Christopher Reeves' likeness to be part of this, I'm all for it. I'd love to see another Superman movie with
Oh,
Christopher
we also
Reeves.
got permission for Brando as well. We
Oh,
bring
wow,
Brando
that's
back.
fantastic.
Yeah.
What
And
was I
there's
was going
there's
to ask,
things there's things that you can add to a story that make it work really well. And it's
you know what?
I think we'll have a good time with it.
I've always been a big fan of Weird Al Yankovic because he was one of these guys. Because parodies, you're allowed to make them without asking permission. But Weird Al always asked the artist permission to parody their song because he said that it was just the gentleman thing to do. You want to have good relations with the people
Oh,
that,
exactly. I mean, we wouldn't
yeah,
even think of doing it without getting permission
I love
from
that.
Chris's family. Or, I mean, they're talking about doing different AI things or bringing people doing different things and not getting your permission. And I said that, so the guild, that's one of the things that was brought up in the strike.
Hmm.
So the guild is actually coming against that big time,
Well, you know
so it's,
what? When I saw Rogue One, the Star Wars movie, it it was pretty cool seeing Peter Cushing up there on the screen, I
yeah.
gotta it was pretty cool. So I'm all for it. I think the first time I heard of that happen was Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. There was Laurence Olivier, and I think it's cool when all parties come in agreement. I think that's awesome. I am all for another Christopher Reeves Superman. So
Oh,
how
I think the audience would go crazy. You
yeah,
know, I really do.
how-
There was no better Superman Clark Kent than him.
I
And
agree.
to
I
do the
agree.
storyline to where we go back to the originality of Law and Order and everything, I think would be terrific for the audience.
So
I think the
so
audience is getting tired of the violence.
yeah. Well, how far along are you guys in at getting this off the ground?
We're talking to the people to try to get Jim Gunn to take a look at what we want to do and stuff. And the money's there. We don't need Warner's money. Well, it's not Warner's anymore. It's DC Comics. It's I think that by maybe by the summer we'll have some kind of an understanding that could possibly work. You know,
Are they going to AI Terrence Stamp, yourself, and Sarah Douglas as well?
yeah, we'll be
Hmm.
hologrammed. Yeah, we'll be because we'll stay the same age. You know what I mean?
Well, you guys want to be younger, of course. You,
Well,
I'm li-
and kryptonites don't age.
that way you could say what makeup? This was me for
Yeah, it would work really well. I mean, that guy can use my voice. Sarah can use hers. Terrence can use his. So that's a plus. You know, they've had
yeah.
great success with Michael Jackson and Tupac and a couple other actors that have died during filming, and they finished the films with it. So it's technology's there, and it's great, and it can work. So
I think that's
why not?
awesome. And with Brando likeness being in it, that's fantastic, you know. Um, yeah. So no, I look forward to it. Now, what would this one be called?
That's something they got to sit down and discuss. You know,
Hmm.
it's a few titles that they could kick around, but I don't know. It's going to be it'll be interesting if they do a title that can carry over to doing a sequel, and a sequel. You know, they'll come up with something that'll carry over to do one, two, three, four, or five of them, which would put them back on the map again because Marvel has really been beating their brains out with what they've been doing. So it's going to be very interesting.
What do you think? And I know we touched a little bit upon this with the latest bunch of Superman movies, but what do you think of the state of a superhero movie right now? Because the Marvels just bombed, you know, big time. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did well, and I love how they incorporate music into their storytelling, which
Yeah,
is nice and nostalgic, you know. But
yeah.
superhero movies, they call it superhero fatigue, you know.
Well,
And
I think that there's too much violence, and I think
hmm
that's people are getting tired of watching that over and over again. It doesn't get less; it gets more. It's worse.
hmm
And you know, to carry a storyline and back a storyline with violence is not the way to do it.
hmm
You know, it's not. There's better ways of. That's what's so brilliant about Superman 1 and 2. It had a great storyline,
yes, they did. Yep.
and it gave depth to the film, and you had Williams doing the music. The music was brilliant, so
Hmm.
it all tied in very well. And you had a great director. Donner was a terrific director.
Do you know who you get to direct this one?
Jim Gunn probably would want to direct it, and I think
Okay.
he's capable, very capable of doing it. So you just sit down and work out all the details of writing a script with him and stuff like that. And he wants to be a script writer as well. He wants to be almost like what Donner did. Donner and Mankiewicz wrote the scripts.
Oh,
Was
nice.
it,
Yes.
it was just you got to put it. You have to put a very good team together. You
Yes,
know,
absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
I think it's doable,
Hmm.
and I think it would be great. You know,
We haven't,
I think it would work extremely well.
yeah, we haven't touched on Margot Kidder. What are your best memories of her?
I love Margot. Margot was a super lady. She was a fine actress. You know, she
Hmm.
got a little bit messed up with drugs at the end of the day, and then she cleaned herself up. And she, last time I saw her, she was in great shape. And then she did a sit-in. She was very much an activist, you know,
Hmm.
and she did a sit-in, and they they sprayed them something that caused her. I think that's what caused her death. To break up the sit-in, they were spraying her with some toxic. And I was sad because she cleaned herself up drug wise and everything, and she was getting herself back into working again. And last time I saw her, we were doing a con. I think it was in Kansas City,
I would have
and
loved her, man. I liked her in Black Christmas as well, you know?
oh, she was a very good actress. She was
Hmm.
and just a real sweetheart of a woman. I mean, I like Maggie quite a bit.
Now is her likeness gonna be part of the new Superman?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I'd love to see Margot
Oh,
again.
yeah.
She's
No, I'd bring her
gorgeous.
back as Lois Lane for sure.
She was the best
Absolutely.
Lois Lane, yes.
I don't think there's anybody better that did Lois Lane better. You know,
Yeah.
Maggie was she's just a great actress. She did some fine work. You know,
I've
Pryor
watched
is the one that put her in. They had fired her, and Pryor got her into Superman 3. He said it's either put her in or I don't do the film. So
yeah,
he got her put back into there.
I like Richard Pryor. Um I don't bel- I know some people didn't like him in Superman 3, but for all the problems that film had, Richard Pryor to me at least held my attention, you know.
Well,
You
he's
know,
a
but
great actor, you know,
yeah.
and he has the, you know, acting's a funny deal. And Robert Mitchum explained it to me the best.
Yeah.
It's a presence. Either you have a presence or you don't.
Mhm.
Either the camera loves you or it doesn't. And some people who are great actors, but they just never had that presence, like William Holden. You could go and see a movie with William Holden and you walk out of the movie theater and say, "Boy, that guy did a great job. What was his name?" You know. But if you saw a Brando movie, you'd be, well, boy, wasn't Marlon great at this? Wasn't he great at that? You know, or Gregory Peck, wasn't he great at that? Or Robert Mitchum, wasn't he great at this? You know, it's a word called presence. And either the camera, like I said, the camera either loves you or it doesn't. And you know, some people just have that, and
Mhm.
some people don't.
Well, what's interesting with Margot Kidder is I watched Black Christmas over on Christmas Eve, and I just looking at her thinking she's gonna be Lois Lane in a few years after this role. And, no, loved her, and I sad to hear about her passing, you know. But but you were also in King Kong as well, you know.
Yeah, Farewell, My Lovely. Then I did King Kong,
Hmm.
and we had a lot of fun doing Kong. It was went from Kong to Superman, and we did March or Die.
You did the
Uh,
Baltimore Bullet.
Baltimore Bullets, a great picture with Jimmy Coburn and Omar Sharif. It was
Hmm.
Bruce Boxleitner's first picture.
Hmm.
We had a lot of fun doing that. We shot the 9 bowl tournament at MGM that year, and everybody,
Hmm.
Moscone, all the great pool hustlers of the country were there. It was a fun movie. We had a lot of fun doing it. And then I did Hero in the Terror with Chuck Norris, which
Hmm.
turned out to be one of the best pictures he ever did. So it's
Hmm.
just then Dragnet with Tom Hanks and Dan Aykroyd was a good film. Like you
Yeah,
could
I
see
seen that.
Dragnet 50 times and you still wouldn't get all the one-liners that Danny threw out. He was just pumping them out.
I met Dan Aykroyd years and years ago. He was in Fredericton promoting his brand of wine, and I brought my DVD of the Blues Brothers and got him to sign it. You know, it was pretty cool to meet him.
Him and Belushi. Well, he's a Canadian. Danny's a Canadian.
Dan is Canadian. Belushi went way too soon. I'd like to. he had such range, John Belushi did. When you look at Animal House, Blues Brothers,
Very
um,
talented guy, but he's
Neighbors.
again his own worst enemy. You
Yep.
know,
I've heard the nightmare stories. I've interviewed three of the Blues Brothers band, and I've, they all have spoke of his talent, but he was his own worst enemy, just as you said. Yes.
yeah. I mean, his brother's done a lot of films, but he's not nearly the talent that John was.
Nope,
And
I agree.
it's sad. John had a camera again. The camera loved him, and he had
Mm-hmm.
a great persona about himself, but he just couldn't put that stuff down, boy.
Nope, he could not.
Sad the way it grabs people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you also, um, before you got into acting, you were a boxer, and I again, it's been a while since I listened to our last interview, so I'm hoping not repeating, but I am going to bring this up. Being in the ring with George Foreman, talk about that experience.
That was a great fight. Actually, I took the fight on a week's notice, and
Mm-hmm.
I actually heard him in the second round, and it was actually a pretty good fight. And I walked into a punch in the fifth round, but I
Mm-hmm.
was getting up. But as soon as I hit the floor, they stopped the fight, which kind of made me angry um, because I could have went on, and he would never fight me again. And George and I became pretty good friends. George is a good guy. He's a and he was a great champion. He was a tribute to boxing.
Now, I'm trying to think, how many fights did you have undefeated before you lost? I know you had a couple draws in there.
At 16,
16, because I know you had
16.
34 wins, I think 24, 21 losses, excuse me, and two draws.
Well,
So
then
you,
I actually had another 25 wins that were never recorded.
okay.
They used to have, they did a lot of shows up in Maine, Sam Silverman and Rip Valenti, and they had shows in Bangor, Maine, Portland, Maine. So we would drive, and I lived in Boston, we would drive up to the shows and they'd say, Jack, you got your shoes? You got your cup? I said, well, we need a bout. I said, well, you got to talk to my man. Well, no, we'll just do it under another name. So I had like 25 knockouts under different names. It was kind of comical. But yeah, altogether 79 fights, but take the 25 away and 50 some fights. It was and I had suffered from a disease when I was undefeated. I went to do my physical, and
Mm-hmm.
they found out that I suffered from acromegaly, which is a tumor of the pituitary gland.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't figure out how I was even boxing. I shouldn't have been boxing. They told me I should quit right then and there because the disease will definitely kill you. It causes gigantism, and it attacks an organ in your body and causes it to explode eventually. And I had, but it was my day job. I was in San Diego when I fought Norton, and I stayed and won the California heavyweight title. And the doctor was a good friend of mine. He said, Jack, you have got to get a workup done at Scripps, or I'm going to pull your license away because this disease will kill you. So I went, and it was bad. I had your normal body puts out 10% growth hormone. Mine was putting out like 250% growth hormone, which causes you to sap your strength and causes depression. And they couldn't figure out how I could get up to fight, or how I even got in the ring. And so I went right down to the last time, and I went to Mass General and had it fixed. Had it fixed at the Mass General. That was a trip. Had it fixed at the Mass General, and I was supposed to stay in the hospital for a couple of weeks because they drilled holes in your head to bolt you to a machine. How they fixed it was with a cyclotron proton beam, which didn't burn; it caused the inner explosion of the tumor. And I was very lucky; I was one of 1,000 that it did it the first time. So the doctor said, "Well, you got to stay here for a couple of weeks," and I said, "Yeah, uh-huh." And 4 days later, I checked myself out and went to Baltimore and fought a 10-round fight.
Do
And
you ever
doctors thought I was crazy or no.
Do I know you came close to having a title fight against Muhammad Ali, and
Four
it
times. We were
didn't.
signed four different times.
Yeah, and it didn't happen.
No.
What that must have been a major disappointment.
Well, it's my own fault. I should have done certain things differently. And it's like he called me on the phone one time
Hmm.
and he said, "You got to do me a favor." And I said, "Favor? Sign a contract to fight. I'll do you any favor you want." "Oh, we'll get to that." He said, "But you're fighting my brother Rockman and you got to get him out of boxing." I said, "Rockman Ali's your brother?" I said, "Yeah." So I said, "I better go in the gym a couple of days." So I knocked him out in the ninth round and he never fought again. And Ali and I went back and forth, and we were supposed to fight in Australia. We were supposed to fight in Boston. And then I fought a guy called Alvin Blue Lewis from Detroit, who went 13 rounds with Ali in Ireland. And then he came home and he beat Terrell and he beat another guy. And if he beat me, they were going to get him another title fight. So I went to Detroit. They called me up and they said, "Would you fight Alvin Blue Lewis?" I said, "When?" They said, "Next week." I said, "Send me a ticket." You'll take the fight? I said, "Send me a ticket." So I went up to Detroit and I beat Alvin Blue Lewis badly, really beat him bad. And then I went up to Ali's camp. I drove up to see him and I said, "Okay, time to get it on. I just beat this clown Alvin Blue Lewis, who was ranked like number three in the world. I said, it's time for you and I to settle down and to get to us." So I said, "Come on, come with me." We went into a back room and he had all the press up there at his camp and everything. We went into a back room, like, and closed the door. We were kicking and punching the door. They thought we were in there fighting. They thought he and I were in there brawling all over the place. And he opened the door and he was laughing like hell. And the press were like stunned that we both come out of there laughing. And then we sat down. And I said, "If he said, if I give you a title fight, are you really going to try and beat me?" I said, "I'll tell you what. For the first time in my career, I want to go away to camp like you do, and I'll spend 4 weeks away. And when you come in the ring, bring a gun with you because you're going to need it." And he said, "Two steaks, please." He was he was a good guy. I mean, I love Muhammad. He was a when you talk to him 101, he was very clever, very smart. But all the gibberish and stuff he used to do, he got that from Gorgeous George, the wrestler. Told him, he
Yeah.
said,
Yep.
he said, if you get 50% of the people wanting to see you get beat and 50% want to see you win, you got 100% of the crowd. So keep talking all that garbage, and these guys will come to see you get beat up. And but he was one of the best fighters I ever saw.
Absolutely.
He would have been a
Absolutely.
great athlete in anything he did, though. He was just a
Yeah.
good athlete, you know. But some of these old timers like Willie Pepperell, man, these guys had 200 fights. They fought all the time. These kids today fight once a year. I mean, I don't know how they even keep their boxing skills up. But
No.
I mean, we fought every. I used to fight once, twice a month. It just was like going to the gym.
What do you think of UFC fighting?
It's a sport,
Mhm.
and if you would like it, it's fine. But it's not real boxing. It's
No, it's interesting because that I mean there was boxing and there was wrestling, of course, and then UFC came. I don't know when that started, but I know it came way, 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 way later. But
yeah. People got into it because there was more action in some of those fights than there are in some of the boxing fights you see today.
Mhm.
Uh, I personally, I've only seen one or two of them bouts because of people I knew. With um, James Tony did a couple. He
Mhm.
fought a couple of them, but Tony could fight. So his bouts that he did were more like boxing because he didn't have to use his feet or anything. He just knocked guy out. James was a pretty good fighter.
Well, we got to talk about your book because we know that you had an interesting upbringing. Raised by your mom and as stepdad. I got that right, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And your father was involved with I just read this too. The mob?
Well, he was the real godfather. Albert was head of Murder Incorporated,
Okay,
and
yep.
he had his own family, the Anastasia family. Carl Gambino was his underboss. So
Hmm.
when they assassinated Albert, and they assassinated him in '57 because he wouldn't go in the drug business. He controlled the harbors. And
Hmm.
he said, if we touch it, our children will touch it. It'll be the downfall of the families. And he was right. You know, it was a business that they didn't belong in. And the government didn't want them in it because they were in it. So it was, I mean, they tolerated, they tried to kill Frank Costello for the same reason. Uh, but they only wound the guy, changed his hand, slipped, and they only greased his skull.
Hmm.
But Frank had the best political book in the country. And they, all the politicians told him, you know, we'll tolerate you doing this, tolerate you doing that, but we're not going to tolerate you in the drug business. So it was the downfall. Now you know, they're killing each other over drugs and stuff. And it's just kind of stupid.
Hmm. So, you got your book right there handy?
The book that I wrote
Hmm.
somewhere around here in the house.
I was gonna say if you had it right there handy, you could show it on camera here, but that's all right. Um, I know there's images out there of you with it, but
Yeah, let me see. Hey, Sharon,
hmm,
where's the book Family Legacy? Do you have my book Family Legacy? Can I have it for a moment?
there we are.
The boss, she keeps everything.
Well, yeah, it's got to keep you in line.
It does. There you go.
There you go. Look at that. How long ago did you write that now?
Wrote this over 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we're getting ready to put out another book because we're
Mm-hmm.
doing the miniseries. And we were going to do a film and then a sequel, but there's just too much information. So we're going to do a 8 epic miniseries, and I'll put out two more books, and then we'll after that we're going to go into a series, I believe. It's time to tell the truth about life.
Okay. Talk about this series. Who's involved with it?
We have a wish list of actors that we want. Then we'll probably get Armin Asante to play my father, Albert Anastasia, and we got Sean Penn probably do Meyer Lansky.
Okay.
There's there's quite a few good. Robert Downey Jr. may do a character role. Uh, Mel Gibson may do a role.
Hmm.
So we're looking for the director to be Butler if we can get him, and if not Ron Howard or probably Mel Gibson's wife is a great director. So we're looking for as soon as we get the money in the bank in the next week, then we can go and put all the pieces together. But we got the locations where we're going, the scripts being written. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So they chose to go with a miniseries instead of a couple of movies. It's funny because you got a lot of, and they've been doing this since Harry Potter, Hunger Games. They just did it with the recent Mission Impossible. They'll do a movie and it's a part one, and then I don't know why they do that, but I do know why, money. But it's like sometimes I wonder if they can't condense that into one movie. But nonetheless, why not? Why don't they do a couple of movies? You know, there's a target audience for that.
Well, the miniseries is probably a better audience even.
Okay.
It's and you can put all the information in there. You don't have
Hmm.
to condense it down. You can really open it up and tell the truth about a lot of things.
Hmm.
And people have been dying to hear the truth about a lot of things, you know. So, and it's not something that I read books about. I lived it. That was my life,
Hmm.
and I know the truth about my father and where he came from and what happened, and I'm also telling the truth about the Kennedy assassination because
Hmm.
I was down there in Dallas that day, and they've told so many lies about it. It's ridiculous. You know, the Warren Commission was not accurate at all, and Jack Kennedy was actually shot 3 times. And there were 13 shots fired that day. The car had several bullet holes in it, and they sent the car to New Orleans to get it patched up right away so that no one could track it down and say that there was damage to it. It was so in the Zapruder, the original Zapruder film shows that Kennedy got hit in the throat first, then he fell down on top of Conley and he got hit in his lower back. They never talked about that for 10 years. Then the driver of the car took the last shot and threw him backwards, and the back of his head came out. Oswald was a total patsy. He wasn't in the building at all. And there was a prison right across from the Bird building. Guys are sitting there looking right at that window. There were two dark complected guys and the white guy, 3 people in the window. If you were going to shoot him from that window, you would have hit him in the back of the head, and the front of his head would have come out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The rifle that they talked about was a bolt action mail order rifle that you're not shooting any 3 shots at accuracy in 28 seconds with a bolt action rifle. This never happened. Never going to happen. So
No.
there's just a lot of things that need to be focused on and the truth told. And like I said, people are dying to know the truth. And they just had a guy from the Secret Service just after 60 years, all of a sudden he'd come up and he was on the car behind Kennedy. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I heard 3 shots that day." Well, you heard three, you heard all 13 of them. And 60 years later, all of a sudden you remember that? You know, why wouldn't you have said something when it first happened? So, and he's writing a book, and there's everybody makes money off of everything that they can, because when total truth isn't told about stories, people invent truth. It's like they did the Irishman, and that guy never killed Hoffa, and he never killed Joey Gallo. He was a driver for Russell Buffalino. And it's Hollywood does their makeup of what they want of stories that no one has an answer to. So they make up the answer. So it's time to put the real answers down and tell the truth about it. So that's what we're going to do.
It's interesting because right now, like, um, with the media being what it is, it's hard to know what is true and what isn't anymore. It's just like I'm not impressed with where our Canadian government is going, especially with censorship,
Yeah.
and don't get me started there. But yeah, yeah,
Well, the world's in a bit of a turmoil right now.
yeah,
Just pray to God that it sorts itself out before too long. I mean, I have great empathy for people being born today
yeah,
as to what kind of world they're going to be growing up in. You see kids standing across the room from each other, texting each other.
yep,
Nobody talks face to face, so you don't even know who you're talking to. You know what I mean?
yep. I agree. You know, um, I don't think things are going to get solved until Jesus makes his second return. That's
I
I
hope it doesn't
really
take
think
that.
that's it.
I
Um,
don't know.
yeah,
I don't know. Something's got to happen. That's for sure. Something's got to
yeah,
shake this thing up. So we
yeah,
just keep praying to God every day that something turns around.
yeah, absolutely.
But it
Now,
certainly is different from when I grew up. I'll say that.
you're different from when I grew up. I'm 51, and it's like I've
Yeah,
seen so many changes, and some not for the better.
I haven't seen too many for the better, to be honest.
Yeah,
So we'll
I think
see.
tech. I think technology has gotten better, but
Oh, there's some great technology out there.
well, I'll tell you
So
one
no
thing.
doubt
I
about that.
I, I was in Toronto a couple years ago, and I come out of the wrong end of a mall, and I didn't know where I was, and it's kind of like back in the 70s or 80s, whatever. I would have been panicked. Now I just go on my phone, type in where I need to be, and follow the line. I find my way back, and it's like that is one thing that technology is allowed. That I could just go on my phone and I could just follow the whole line. And I'm like, okay, now I know where I need to go. I do like that feature.
That's
but
true.
hmm,
That's
but
very true. You know, you can if you. I mean, I'm not a techie guy.
no,
These young
I'm not
kids,
either.
boy, they whip around their phones. They can do all kinds of stuff, boy. You know, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
And the
Now,
computer the same way. I mean,
hmm
I'm lucky I can turn my computer on and off. I'm getting better.
there you go. Same here. My brother's more of a tech person than me. He knows about that stuff. But I want to know, what was it like? Like, I know you were raised by your mom and stepmom, but what were your memories, personal memories of your dad?
Met him once when I was younger, and
Okay.
I was gobsmacked actually.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I was supposed to go to New York and sit down with him and spend some time, and he got assassinated. And but he left me 256 pages of all the things that were about to happen, things that happened, and what led up to what was about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a lawyer put it all together and deliver it to me. And I got close to Meyer Lansky and Frank Costello looked after me pretty good. And I learned how to to grow up and stay out of jail and do the right thing and get myself in the right place and all. And thank God for that. That put people next to me that guided me in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I probably had a great talent as an athlete. I played pro ball and I went into boxing, and I probably could have done a tremendous amount more in boxing had I trained like normal people. But I was doing a day job with the unions and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that, but I had an ability and I abused it. Because I beat some great fighters.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm in Hall of Fame and all that stuff because I had a great ability. So it was it's one of them things it's a learning process, and I think I don't use excuses with acromegaly or any of that stuff. It's my own foolishness that didn't allow me to achieve what I really wanted to achieve. And I think that if they'd assigned an alley fight, I would have went away to camp and it would have been a different deal all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it is what it is, and I don't cry over yesterday's newspapers.
You think you would have
Just
beaten Ali?
I think it would have been a hell of a fight. I think it would have been a very good fight. Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
I was fast like him, and I was big, and I was strong, and had a great jab, and it would have been interesting. It
There
would have
you
been very
go.
interesting,
Um,
very
where
very
can
interesting.
where can people find your book?
On Amazon,
Amazon, okay.
yeah, go right on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. And like I said, we're getting ready to publish another book, which will come out worldwide in all
What's it
languages, and
what's it
it'll
called?
coincide with the miniseries. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all good, you know.
What's it gonna be called?
It'll be Family Legacy. I think we use Family Legacy, The Return, or something. I don't know.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think it'll be a similar name with maybe an additive.
Do you have any charities that you want to plug and promote on here?
Oh, we support these homeless children and stuff, and St.
Mm-hmm.
Jude.
Yeah,
It's a good
St. Jude's
charity.
very common. Yep.
I think St. Jude's a very good charity, and I think supporting some of these homeless kids. Uh, we give money every month to that, and it helps them a lot for education and feeding them and clothing them and putting them in some proper housing and all. It's just
Yes.
sad. I feel bad for a lot of kids today. The misguidance of, the problem in our society is the word respect is gone.
Yes, it is.
You
Yep.
know, And when I was a kid, you sat down at a dinner table every night, and you better be sitting there. And people looked each other in the eye, so they could tell if you were doing anything stupid. You know, but it was just you had you learned to respect yourself and you respect other people.
Hmm.
And we all had jobs, paper routes or taking orders at a store. They always did something to learn how to work your way into the economy of and teach you discipline in life. Is it just like I said, I feel I have a lot of empathy for these poor kids today that no one really takes them and guides them in a proper manner.
You're
And in
right.
our society, the word respect is just gone. Just if you don't respect yourself, how are you going to respect anybody else?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I feel bad where our society is heading. It's
Not a good
so
idea, that's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
But you never know, something's liable to change one day and spark everything. Hopefully, bring it back to some kind of a normal kilter.
For us, right now, we need a better prime minister.
We need a better president. You know,
I've heard a lot of that. I've heard a lot of
and a
that,
lot of
you know?
countries need the same thing. We're not the Lone Rangers.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
not the Lone Rangers.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you got four conventions coming up this year?
Yeah, it's four so far that
Hmm.
they've asked us to go to. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, if you're
One in
able,
Indiana, and we're
yeah.
going to be in Indiana, and I think one in Rhode Island, and one in New York, and probably one in South Carolina or Florida. I think there's another one here in Orlando.
Do you have a favorite convention? Is there one that just stands out to you?
I The Detroit convention was really good. Had a good time in Detroit, and New Jersey had a great convention a few years back.
Okay.
Um, but there were a couple that I really really enjoyed, and you just most of them are pretty good. Most of them are if they're marketed right and properly and everything, they work out pretty well. But it's just I get a lot of kick out of watching how people dress up and go to these conventions and how ridiculous some of the costumes are.
I never
But they
dress up, but I've assisted Lisa at three of them, you know, and
but
I'm
they have a
hoping to
lot of
do
fun.
more with them.
People go
Yep.
and they have a ball. I mean, I ask some people, I say, how long does it take you to get into that costume? For God's sake! I mean, wow, some of these costumes are. It's got to take them a half a day just to get into it,
Yeah.
and then how do you get out of it? It's but it's good. It's good for people to be able to express themselves, and I enjoy the conventions because it's good to interface with people that enjoy your work. You know,
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if you're able to put me in touch, connect me with Sarah Douglas. I would love to have her on here if
I'll have
she's
a chat
willing.
with her. Absolutely, I'll send you your
Yeah.
information, and she
Yep.
has someone who does these podcasts for her. So does Mark McClure. I just do them myself. Like if you call me on the phone or
Hmm.
email me, it's just,
You know, it's interesting. I've had your number all that time and I've never misused it, you know. So you can trust me. Let her know
yeah,
that, you know.
no, it's good. No, no,
Yep.
no. And
Yep.
I enjoy
I
it. I enjoy the show with you. It's good.
Yeah, I've had Aaron on here. I'd love to have Sarah Douglas on here.
Yeah,
But
Sarah's lovely. You love Sarah. Sarah works all the time. She's a go-getter, boy.
there you
She's doing that.
go. Absolutely. You know, I always follow your post, so I always see what you're doing online. You're always pleasant, and I like that about you, you know. So I know you're always wishing people well on the holidays. I always see those posts, you know. So when you post, they're being seen by somebody, and I definitely see them. So I appreciate your enthusiasm, your pleasantness when you do that.
My pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice to be nice. It doesn't cost a dime. It's just always good to be nifty. Who you're nice to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is anything else you want to plug and promote on here before we close off?
Now we're all good.
Well, you know what, Jack? It was wonderful having you come back on here, you know. It's been 7 years since I've had you on. Last time it was by phone because I was doing them at the station, but when the lockdown happened, I wasn't able to do them at the station. It was actually one of my guests that tuned me into to
Doing
Zoom,
Zoom.
and
Yeah.
I could sit right at my own apartment and do these. I'm actually digging the idea of this, you know. So
I hear you. That's
yeah,
good.
so I really appreciate that.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate you calling me up, and it's been fun, man. And Happy New Year. I hope you have a great, successful year and
I hope
everything
it's
goes
better
well
than
for you.
last year. Last year was a hard year for me, you know, but I still did 104 interviews, so my show went well as far as that
Nothing
goes.
wrong with
But
that.
yeah, I lost a job last year because I got gaslit, you know,
Uh,
and luckily I still had a job I could um, uh, uh, I had another job that I was able to get more hours at and stuff, so they appreciate me more than the other one. So,
Good.
you know,
Super.
I'm hoping to get moved to Toronto at some point, you know, but I'm not going to jump to that branch until I know it can sustain me.
Oh,
So,
that's for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Not at all.
Just state your name and that you played none in Superman 1 and 2, and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Going Pythons to Paradise.
Python's Paradise. Yep.
Python's Paradise.
Hmm.
Hi, this is Jack O'Halloran, played Non in the Superman 1 and 2. And you're all sitting here listening to Greg Gilbert on Python to Paradise.
Absolutely. Check out Jack O'Halloran's book, Family Legacy, and check out the miniseries when that comes out. That is going to be something. And of course, go see him and Sarah Douglas and Aaron Spolinski and Mark Milkora if he gets caught up in any more of these. Folks, go out and see them and show them your love. And we all always, of course, wish Terrence Stamp the best. And we really hope for this Christopher Reeves Superman movie. We want to see that. Let's get that going.
Have a great day, my friend.
You
Happy
take
New
care
Year.
and God bless you.
Thank you much.
Thank you.